Imagine walking into a courtroom. Your home, your savings, or maybe even your family's safety is on the line, and you have to face it completely alone simply because you can't afford an attorney. For far too many people, this isn't just some hypothetical nightmare, it's a very terrifying reality. Well, let's jump right into this explainer and uncover exactly how vulnerable Virginians can navigate the deeply complex system of free civil legal aid. Today, we're going to break down those barriers to justice and give you a comprehensive step-by-step roadmap to finding the help you absolutely need.
Just wrap your head around this staggering statistic. In Virginia, there is exactly one legal aid lawyer available for every 7,237 people living in poverty. One. Compare that to the general population, where there's one private lawyer for every 349 Virginians. That massive disparity, that's what experts call the justice gap. And honestly, it paints a pretty stark picture of a system where the demand just completely crushes the supply.
And because of that massive gap, over 80% of civil legal needs for the poor simply go unmet. We aren't talking about trivial stuff here. We're talking about critical life events, evictions, domestic violence protection orders, consumer fraud, predatory lending. This makes it absolutely crucial to understand how to access the help that is actually out there. You really need to know the rules of the road if you want to successfully secure representation. So, to empower you with this information, here's our roadmap for this explainer. We're going to look at the justice gap, who qualifies for help, key organizations, the step-by-step intake process, some frequently asked questions, and finally, next steps and a quick disclaimer.
All right, Section 1, the justice gap, the high stakes in Virginia.
Look, when you're forced to represent yourself, the odds are just completely stacked against you, right? Especially when the opposing party, like a corporate landlord, has seasoned legal counsel. Having a lawyer fundamentally changes the math. In fact, individuals with counsel are literally twice as likely to get a favorable outcome compared to going it alone. And while about 1 million Virginians, that's 1 in 8 people, are actually eligible for these free services, there are fewer than 140 legal aid lawyers serving the entire state. So knowing how to navigate this system is quite literally your best defense.
Moving on to Section 2, who qualifies for help? Navigating financial eligibility.
Because these resources are so incredibly scarce, legal aid programs use very strict federal guidelines to determine who gets help, mostly coming down to household income and assets. To put this in perspective, to be eligible without any deductions, your gross household income usually needs to be below the 125% threshold. So for a family of 4, that means an annual income under $41,250. But there are exceptions up to the 200% mark, which is $66,000 for that same family of 4, if you have specific financial burdens.
So if your income falls between that 125% and 200% mark, don't automatically assume you're out of luck. Legal aid societies can actually deduct certain verifiable expenses from your gross income to help you qualify. We're talking about things like employment-related childcare, regular back tax payments, massive unreimbursed medical bills, commuting costs, court-ordered child support, and even currently garnished wages. Plus, when they calculate your assets, they generally don't count your primary house and one car.
Oh, and there's a really important exception here for seniors. Virginians aged 60 or over can often access legal advice through dedicated hotlines, like the statewide Senior Legal Hotline, without having to worry about these strict financial constraints. It's a huge help for vulnerable older populations dealing with things like elder abuse, financial exploitation, or healthcare directives. Oh, and there's a really important exception here for seniors. Virginians aged 60 or over can often access legal advice through dedicated hotlines, like the statewide Senior Legal Hotline, without having to worry about these strict financial constraints. It's a huge help for vulnerable older populations dealing with things like elder abuse, financial exploitation, or healthcare directives.
Okay, Section 3, key organizations and helplines, where to turn in a crisis.
Now that we've got eligibility down, let's map out the actual network. Virginia has a highly structured system, kind of like a giant hub and spoke model. The Virginia Poverty Law Center is the cornerstone. While they handle the big systemic advocacy stuff, they provide the essential training and support to 9 regional programs.
It's those regional programs, like the Legal Aid Society of Eastern Virginia or the Central Virginia Legal Aid Society, that are actually the boots on the ground handling local, individual cases. But if you're facing a really fast-moving crisis, like impending homelessness, you might not have time for standard regional intake. For those specific situations, dedicated resources like the 1-833 No Evict helpline are a total game changer. They offer targeted, phone-based legal consultations for tenants looking at immediate lease termination. They might not go to court with you, but they give you the urgent advice you need to negotiate or just understand the process before your court date.
Let's move to Section 4, the step-by-step intake process. How to apply for legal aid.
Securing an attorney isn't just about walking in. You have to pass a strict screening process called intake. Because they're so overwhelmed, it's highly structured. The pathway usually follows 3 distinct steps. The absolute best starting point? Just call the statewide central triage line at 1-866-LEGAL-AID. That's 1-866-534-5243. It automatically routes you to the right local provider. Then, you move into gathering documents and a formal screening to verify eligibility and make sure there are no legal conflicts of interest.
Look, it is absolutely vital, I cannot stress this enough, to have your documents gathered before you call. The intake staff has to verify everything. Demographics, income, assets. If you call up without your pay stubs, bank statements, tax returns, or copies of the legal notices you've been served, well, you're just going to delay your own case. Being organized is literally your best tool for getting help quickly.
Now listen close, because this is probably the most crucial tip in this entire explainer, the 72-hour rule. A lot of legal aid societies have online web portals, which are great, but they usually take about 3 business days to respond. If you are facing a court date, an eviction, or a hard deadline within the next 72 hours, or even 7 days for some programs, you must bypass the internet. Call them on the phone or walk in person. Do not wait, or you risk devastating default judgments.
Section 5. Frequently asked questions, clarifying complex legal rules.
Let's clear up some things that often confuse people. A really common question we see is, what if your case could actually win you monetary damages, like a personal injury lawsuit or something with a big payout? In the legal world, this is known as a fee-generating case.
Well, under strict federal regulations, specifically ECFR Part 1609, legal aid programs actually cannot use their super scarce resources on cases that a private attorney would happily take for a percentage of the winnings. The only way legal aid can take a fee-generating case is if you have hard proof that a local lawyer referral service, or at least 2 private attorneys, have already flat-out rejected your case or asked for an upfront fee you just can't pay.
Another really stressful scenario: what happens when your income is just a hair over that 200% poverty limit? You don't get free direct representation, but you still definitely can't afford a private lawyer's normal hourly rate.
The good news is Virginians have some solid alternative options here. You can use Virginia Free Legal Answers, an online tool where you post a question and a pro bono attorney emails you back. There's also the Virginia Lawyer Referral Service, which gets you a 30-minute phone consultation with a private attorney for just $35. And if you're representing yourself, VirginiaLawHelp.org has these incredibly useful automated tools and step-by-step guides.
Finally, Section 6. Next steps and disclaimer. Taking action today.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a pretty provocative thought. Does justice truly exist if it is completely out of reach for those who cannot afford it? The dedicated folks in Virginia's legal aid network are fighting tooth and nail every day to bridge that gap. Yes, the system is complex, but the help is out there if you're prepared. We urge you to take action. Get your documents together, call 1-866-LEGAL-AID, or use the community resources we talked about today if you're in a crisis.
And just a quick but very important reminder here at the end. While this explainer gives you a solid roadmap to find help, it is strictly for educational purposes. It's not formal legal advice. You really need to contact a qualified legal professional, a legal aid organization, or the Virginia State Bar for advice on your unique situation. Thanks for joining us for this explainer, and we really hope this knowledge gives you the power to take your next steps.